Hello, everyone. Good morning. My name is Omar Shokur. I'm the CEO for Indosuez Wealth Management in Asia and also the Singapore branch manager. And very happy to be with you today.
Hi, and I am Eugene Tang, the business editor at the South China Morning Post. Great honor to be speaking with you, Omar. Welcome to this chat. How are things with COVID-19 in Singapore, where you are?
I mean, I would say things are quite well managed. I mean, as you have probably seen on the press. So it's relatively open. The country is open, so we have been able to bring back the staff at the office. So I would say we are back to a certain level of new normality in Singapore, and we are finding our new balance into the way of working and having people working from home, half of it coming to the bank on a rotation basis.
Great that this new normal is setting in. And it's also been, roughly a year since you've taken over as the CEO of the region?
I would say, luckily enough, slightly more. So I took over, 18 months ago. So just few months before the start of this COVID crisis, but just few months before.
Right. And this is, and you were plunged headlong into the biggest public health crisis the world has seen in many decades. How did you manage this crisis and this change in the working environment?
Yes, it's true. You're right. Like, I guess, myself, like many other managers, CEOs around the world, had to manage the same situation. So it was very unique for everyone. I don't even know if there is a good or bad moment to face a challenge. Is it good to face it at the beginning of your mandate or in the middle or at the end? I mean, it's very difficult. Anyway, it's such a unique situation that there is no right or better moment. What is sure is that we have all had in our industries BCP tests, crisis management tests, and usually those tests that you organize are tests and crisis management for crises that are usually coming overnight and for short term. You look at things that could last for a week, for 2 days, 3 days, a week. But what we faced with COVID, I guess, quite quickly we realized that it's not going to be just an overnight and just for one night or for 1 week. I mean, at the beginning it was difficult to know how long it will last. I guess we were all optimistic saying that potentially it's going to be just few months. But we quickly realized that this crisis is very different. So it is going to be a long-term one, at least few weeks or few months, very beginning. So I guess the way you manage this, there is again no manual for this, because you don't learn this at any crisis management test or exercise. But my learning is that it's important to go back to fundamentals sometimes. By fundamentals, what do I mean is sometimes obvious things for a CEO or for a manager. The first one is the importance of having a management team ready, or having a management team which is solid, robust, you trust, meaning that it's important as a CEO, every time you take a new position, to make sure that those who are around yourself or your governance, you feel comfortable with, because whenever the crisis starts, and could it be different or the one like COVID, it is so important to rely or be able to rely on a solid and robust and I would say cohesive management team. And so this is a learning. Again, it's an obvious thing that what I mentioned, but I learned throughout the time how much it was important for me to have the chance to count on such a management team. And then you can react much faster, quickly on the urgent matters and not on the issues that you might face with your management. I would say the second fundamental element, again, very basic, is the communication part. And by communication, again, I mean internal and external, and all the other stakeholders. Internal meaning your staff, external meaning your clients and all your other stakeholders. Most of the management books, courses, you learn about the importance of communication. Here, I thought was interesting to find the right balance between communicating enough and also at the same time the quality of communication. Because a lot of communication, in terms of frequency, of course, it's important to keep updated everyone, but the quality of information that you give to the different stakeholders is key as well. And in a crisis, when it's an overnight crisis that will last 24 hours, 48 hours, you learn what you need to communicate at this time, this time. This one, you know that it's going to take long. So you have to keep your staff and all the other stakeholders informed with the right level of transparency. Let them know that you're facing issues, unexpected issues, that sometimes you don't have the perfect solution to everything, but here are the means or the subjects you're working on in order to face them and have the solution. And you have to have this methodology, I would say, on a regular basis. So then your staff and your stakeholders, they are updated. They don't panic, but at the same time, they do feel the sense of urgency that this is a collective issue that we are facing. It's not only on the shoulder of the CEO or the management. We have to collectively come up with the right solution. And if you may, maybe the third element that I found quite interesting, at least on my part from a learning, is you have to manage or find the right balance between, on one side, keep having ahead a plan or a planning methodology saying that, this scenario might happen or this scenario B might happen. So what do I do in case those scenarios happen? Because things can change quite quickly. So you have to have this rational part of organization and methodology, but at the same time, which is the biggest learning for me, is you don't have to forget your instinct.
And so you talked about fundamental principles. Now, one of the fundamentals of private banking and wealth management is relationship and personal contact, face-to-face liaison, face-to-face communication, face-to-face assurances to your clients. How do you manage that critical aspect of the relationship? And also, on a slightly more practical note, a lot of the banks and financial institutions require people to show up in person to sign documents and that kind of stuff. Know your customer operates on a personal basis. How do you manage that very practical aspect of it during COVID?
Yeah, very good point. I guess you're right. First of all, you're right by saying that wealth management is a business of contact, of relationship, of face-to-face meeting. The kind of deepness or quality of discussion you have on a face-to-face basis with a client, it's, I don't know, never, but at least it's very difficult to be replaced by other means of communication. So you're right. It was a big change, or at least a big challenge for the whole wealth management industry. And also the fact that maybe not the first weeks, but during the second month, I think we all realized that this might last. So we have to adapt and we have to change, or we have to adopt, maybe not adapt, but adopt new ways of communication. And let's not forget that this is also March 2020. So it's a moment where most of the markets are up, down mostly. So a lot of volatility. So what happened is that we adopted, like there is nothing very specific about wealth management. We had to adopt different new means of communication, the Zooms, the video calls, etc. There is nothing, I would say, original here in wealth management. We just moved, like most of the other industries in the world, and adopted this because we had just no other way to do it. What's very interesting, and I found out, is that there are, to me, two paradoxal or counterintuitive benefits that happened. The first one is that, we realized that we had to call our clients instead of meeting them face-to-face. We usually called those clients in the past, but we would call them, let's say, once a month, once a quarter, and then meet face-to-face. It changes, of course, client by client. In this specific case, March happens, so you have to keep your clients updated. So what you do is you call your client even more frequently. And as the client is anyway also stuck somewhere and he's not traveling, so he's also more available. So the first, I would say, paradoxal and counterintuitive benefit of this situation is that you increase the level or the quantity of communication. So instead of speaking to the same person maybe once face-to-face and once a month or once a quarter by phone, you suddenly speak to the same person once a week on the phone. That doesn't mean that this replaces the quality or deepness of your face-to-face, but suddenly in terms of frequency, it increases. The second paradoxal, counterintuitive, again, benefit that I found out is that, when you speak on the phone on easy subject, you don't have to think about it too much. You just speak openly. But as soon as you have to talk about more technical aspects and you're on the phone, you're not facing the person, you have to be more to the point, concise, precise. So you learn and you improve your communication skills. So bankers on average, in my view, and not only bankers, I guess all of us in the different industries, but in this specific case, we do speak about bankers. I think they improved the communication skills in order to find out the right way to describe a product or to describe a situation in easy words and be more efficient and effective. So this is, I think, quite interesting change that we have to, I'd say it did come as a consequence. We didn't think about it initially. And for me, it is a big improvement that it will help all of us in the wealth management industry, but maybe we'll touch base about later in terms of better service to our clients. Now to answer to your second question in terms of, difficulty to meet clients and then do a certain number of, documentation. I think, again, we have to differentiate the different aspects of a relationship. If we talk about a new account opening, then of course you try to focus more on maybe, onshore clients, clients that you could meet. So then you change a little bit the approach. You look more to your Hong Kong clients, your Singapore clients, where you have a base. In terms of documentation and information, you look at how can you, get the right information by different means on the phone, because sometimes it's not only a documentation signing, it's just to interaction, informations. And this one, you adapt them and you do it by phone or by video call. But of course, there are things that you can't just do. So that's the way it is. There are markets you just can't go and be there, but you adapt a little bit more your strategy.
Right. So we are at the end of February, coming on to March. So it's a year after that massive downturn. So Singapore is partially back to normal. Hong Kong is on track to normalizing, but COVID-19 is still very much raging around the world. And the earliest, most optimistic estimate that we have seen is that global travel will not return to full normality until 2022 at the very earliest. So this is, in other words, this is still going to be a very long road ahead. So if this is going to become the new normal, how are you going to conduct yourself, your business in the new year?
I mean, I think as I mentioned, what's important is also, you have the aspect of onboarding new clients. This is one aspect, growing. But then you have an existing base of clients. So first of all, I guess you focus even more. That doesn't mean that you don't look for new clients, but you focus even more on your existing clients and try to get additional market share with your existing clients by improving your service and your value proposition. And again, this is the interesting part of, I would say, this very unique and awful, I would say, crisis that we have all faced, is that if I look at it from a pure wealth management business, maybe at the end of it, or even now, our value proposition has improved for an existing client. Let me explain it. So, again, we were just discussing earlier about the different means of communications that we would have with the clients on a regular basis in the past. I just take an additional example. So let's imagine that we are in the past and you want to organize an event where you want to explain to your clients your view about the markets, your CIO view, and just share your thoughts. So what would you do is that you would either use the standard mean of a paper document that you would send. So you have a paper and then you send it to your clients and then you follow up with a phone call. Or you would organize a physical event somewhere and then invite the clients, which is a great way to interact with your clients. You have face-to-face meeting, interaction, but then the time to market is longer because to organize a large event with 200 people, you don't do it overnight. So you have to plan it, organize it, think about what you're going to discuss about it. So there's a time to market, which is not easy. Today, what we adapted or changed is we said, okay, let's have virtual events. So virtual events where we would invite our clients in the same methodology that you're doing right now here, and then have our CIO, whatever, the different specialists speaking about our views regarding the markets, the market trends, the situations. Now, what I mean, the big difference here is that the time to market is much shorter. If there is an interesting subject you want to share next week regarding your clients on something that happened, then you organize it in a week. And in a week time, you have 200 potential clients, 300 potential clients informed on a visio, I would say, by your different specialists. And I guess the adoption from the client is also very important. They also accept to do it much easier. So suddenly, in terms of quality of information and time to market, because it's critical in today's world, you have improved. You have improved. And to me, we have to capitalize on this. This is something that we have to continue in tomorrow's world. You mentioned that 2021, but you're right, 2021 might look like 2020 from a certain perspective travel. But actually, I mentioned even in 2022, even in 2023, we should go back into physical events, or we should complete this with virtual events, which will have a shorter time to market. So value proposition improved.
That's very interesting, and I guess that you could call that a silver lining in the thunderstorm. I want to spin this a little bit forward. One of the silver linings out of this horrible mess that you've mentioned is there's been a reawakening, I guess, or a reassessment and a new embrace of environment, sustainability, and governance, even as a theme in investment and wealth management. A lot of financial institutions, including yourselves, have made a big deal out of this, and you're embracing it. Would you mind just telling us a little bit how you are adopting or embracing or pitching ESG to your wealth management clients?
I mean, you're right. You're absolutely right. I think if I talk from our side, maybe not the other competitors or players, I think from our side, the ESG aspect has been in our strategy or thoughts, quite a long time ago. So we started to work on it, since quite a while on the different areas of our group, Cyclical group, being on the asset management part, being on the wealth management part, or on the retail banking part, because it was part of a little bit, probably also the DNA of the group, Cyclical group, which is our mother company. It's a group which is deeply, I would say, related to the environment aspects. So my point is that we have started to work on this since quite a while. And those things takes time. I just give you an example. You cannot change your offer, which is what we are doing, and make it ESG compliant overnight. You have to adapt the methodology, improve the skills within your teams, your managers. So this is something that we have started to do a few years from now, and we kind of worked on it in order to amend our platform and make it a platform more sustainable or more ESG oriented. And this is one of the reasons that we did also win a certain number of awards, being as a group level, but also as Indosuez level already in 2018, 2019. Now, what's interesting, I would say, coming back to your question, is that the level of, I would say, adoption again, probably is the word that I'm using quite frequently, the level of adoption of the ESG, it is accelerating. So somehow I'm saying, I'm not going to say that the offer was perfect. The offer was in a building up mode. We already started earlier. We are accelerating it, probably even more than in the past. But the idea, the voluntary, the wish, the willingness was there. But now clients are more inclined, or more interested, or more open to have a discussion and to listen to how a bank or a wealth manager should propose a portfolio of investment, which takes into consideration the ESG part. And this is very interesting because, when we were having those discussions 2 years ago, 3 years ago, always within the industry was, we are doing this, but is it going to be an interesting element for our clients? Is it going to be relevant, for them? Is it going to be, something that would trigger their curiosity? And what we do see right now is a perfect alignment. So, interest is coming, and of course we will just continue to work on what we have done and build what we had already promised, which is allowing our clients to have a service and portfolio proposals, which would be taking into consideration this part. and I'm very happy about this. Again, it's I don't know if what exactly within COVID did trigger this situation. It's difficult to mention it, but it did.
Well, if I were a little bit more cynical, I might say that it's because maybe a lot of the other technology stocks and all those have run ahead, and ESG related stocks are considered laggards. And now finally the cyclical attention is now focusing on them. But is that just being cynical?
I think it's a combination of factors. It's probably a large combination of factors. I think, even without COVID, we would have come to that moment. I think, everyone was expecting more and more, relevance, and also more and more listening on the ESG part. I think it was just a question of time. So we had to, would it be in 2021 or in 2022 or 23? We don't know. But probably you're right. I think what COVID happened is that people spend more time in also trying to understand. I think it goes back also to the same point of communication, explanation. I think people also were more keen to understand more about different ways of investing. Everyone, all the investors, I'm sure, increased the number of, I would say, subjects they were interested into. Those were doing only one type of investment suddenly, were open to listen to how can you invest in different ways. Probably because they could see that the markets will not be a bull market that we had in the last 10 years. So the markets will be more complicated. You need to diversify more. So I think, that openness did also help. And I think, also the different pressures on the companies, worldwide also did help as well, most of the companies. So which means that you have a number of stocks that are also more and more, keen into this aspect. So, the universe of investment vehicles you can invest as well has also increased, and then suddenly you can make it an offer which is more complete, because the universe you can invest. So it's a really combination of various elements that is bringing to this situation. Now I think as one of the stakeholders in this area, which is us as a wealth manager, I think we need to indeed capitalize on what we have done and work on it in order to now make it happen, because there is a big difference between talking about it and then really making it happen and transforming it, which is one of the areas we really want to play a role here since long time. And I think right now is the best timing to show to the markets that also we are there with the right offer, with the right service, and with the right approach.
Right. It's interesting you mentioned that. Here in Hong Kong, we observe what's happening on mainland China very closely, obviously. And that China has unveiled a very ambitious target of becoming carbon neutral by 2060. It's the second major economic entity to announce a date. And we believe that it will actually unleash quite a revolution in industrial and economic policies. And certainly we are certainly noticing a lot of interest in ESG related companies. There are a couple of, for example, water treatment or waste treatment companies, or companies which provide solutions to tackling air pollution or treatment. These were completely overlooked in the past, but all of a sudden there is now a lot of interest in these companies, and a lot of and you're right, a lot of companies which operate in other unrelated industries, from real estate to hotel management to even manufacturing, are all coming up with ESG policies of their own to try and ride this wave. So you're right, the universe of investable options, solutions, all of a sudden seem to be growing substantially.
Absolutely agree with you. So it's really a combination of factors which is happening at the same time, and probably COVID did an acceleration, like in most of the areas we just discussed so far. COVID was a very it is a very sad event. But it's true that if you look at it from a pure, very pure strategical point of view, it did accelerate many things and the adoption of many things. And as a result, in at least on some areas, and we touched base on the value proposition of the wealth management, I do believe that if we do capitalize in a smart way, in a good way on what we had to face now, the value proposition of the wealth management industry to our clients, because at the end of the story, the most important is the way you give value to your clients. I mean, we are a service business. So I do believe that we can have a better service tomorrow in many ways than yesterday. And this is, again, another silver lining, as you mentioned earlier. And I can give one additional example here that I really do believe has an impact is in the past, we always had the same question. I don't know how many times I've been asked these questions. You have wealth management on one side, and then on the other side, all the digitalization and the platforms and the robo-advisors. And the question was always, do you think that robo-advisors or, automatic investment platform will replace wealth management? And everyone was trying to answer to the question saying that actually no, because you need to face-to-face meeting. And what we saw during this crisis is that actually this is not the right way of asking the question. The right way of asking the question to ourselves is, we do have clients who will adopt those different platforms for some of what they want to do. And they will
maybe basic stuff.
Maybe basic stuff or part of their investments. They may have, whatever millions, and then for part of their investments use a very, straight through process platform. But they will still continue to use, the more wealth management platform for the rest. The question is that, is the wealth management then able also to have a full and complete value chain, including the different digital aspects? Why I mentioned this is that yesterday, again, and I maybe repeated too many times, but yesterday, the way we would communicate was face-to-face, client, phone calls, eventually Visio and emails. Now we had to, increase with new means. We had to, work even more on our digital capabilities and, not only the e-banking, but the solutions to provide to our clients. And our clients, even the wealth management clients, adopted them much faster, which was not the case before. So their level of adoption of an e-banking tool or a mobile banking tool has increased. So as a result, we upgraded, or we are in the process of upgrading our platform by keeping the standard methodologies which we had in the past, and at the same time, the new means of communication with the clients, as I said, digital platform. And which means by tomorrow, we will be able to give not only the standard means, but also the new means to our clients. So, and then if the client wants to talk to us, 80% of the time via our digital platform, then fine, then he can do it. But if 20% of the time he wants, in addition, to talk to us face-to-face or on the phone, we will be there as well. And this is the different value proposition between us and someone who's going to be 100% purely digitalized, you see. So right. Basically, you make it a more complete value chain. Of course, then you have the question of the cost. At which cost do you provide it in order to be competitive? And there you have the question of size. And it's important to be, small enough in order to be agile, but big enough in order to have the right resources. And this is, where I do believe that the importance of sizes is there. And us at Indosuez Wealth Management is, I would say, good for us to be able to combine the boutique aspect on one side, and at the same time, the backing of a very large group behind us, which will give us the right support in terms of getting the right resources to evolve in our platform, because those are costs and additional costs that everyone will have to face.
Right. Now, Omar, I will probably not qualify to be your client, but a lot of the readers and audience of the South China Morning Post certainly do qualify to be your client. And when a few of them, when they heard that I'm speaking to Indosuez, wanted me to ask you what you think should be the investment theme for 2021. Now, I know you are the CEO, you are not the Chief Investment Officer, but in very broad terms, what do you think is the key theme for 2021?
I think the key theme to me, if there is one word I would use, is diversification. And that diversification is a word that has been used in the investment world, always, because it's always important to diversify your portfolio. in many ways from a theoretical perspective, but from a practical. But in today's world, it's becoming even more and more important because we do see that the markets are becoming more with more uncertainties. It's more difficult to just say, okay, I'm going to just go for that specific asset class or for that a specific industry. The industries that are doing well today, they are very long time high at the same time. The industries that are not doing that much well today because of the actual situation of COVID may recover very quickly in case the situation gets better. So those are the ones that have the best growth. The industries like alternative investment, like a private equity, might have very interesting distressed potential, opportunities there. So it's really, I do believe that it's the right moment to spend some time with your banker, whoever is it, just to look at, okay, this is the way I've been building my portfolio for a long time, and maybe I'm not going to change and amend my style overnight, but what areas a bank can provide in order to diversify this portfolio, not only for the next few months, but over the next, build something that will be useful and robust for the next, 2021, but eventually longer term.
That's very sage advice. And that's all the time that we have. Thank you so much for joining us, Omar. Do stay safe and be well.
My pleasure. Thank you very much again, and all the best to you and to our audience as well.